Shabbat Shalom. Bokatov, good morning. Again, we have heeded Yah's word, and we're here to give him his glory. The privilege is ours. This morning, our subject is one greater than sovereign Shelomoh. When we anglicize him, we call him Solomon. So the subject is one greater than Solomon. Think of somebody in your life experience who has grabbed your attention, whether intellectually or otherwise. Somebody who was there as a tutor to you, and the legacy of that experience stretches even to this point. I think of Plato, who met Socrates when he was about 20 years old. Socrates was in the square over there in Athens, and he was asking questions, and Plato met him and subsequently became his student and stayed with him until the death of Socrates. Think of Aristotle, who also met Plato and became his student. And from that, we learn that he was the teacher of Alexander the Great, captured the whole world in about 8 years. I say that as a kind of a backdrop to give you some context to our subject today. And if we want to make it even more contemporary, we could talk about Dr. Love. Dr. Love was a Bahamian doctor, medical doctor, and also a clergyman. He was the one who mentored Marcus Garvey. He was that kind of a person, and we know the history of Marcus Garvey, how he came to the Americas and he taught the people a great many things, and he obviously was a great Pan-Africanist, or perhaps I should say a great Alkebulanist. That's who he was, but his mentor was Dr. Love. And so if you join me in the book of Matityahu, again, the anglicized version of that is the book of Matthew, and we're going to take chapter 12 of that, and we're going to start reading at verse 38. Then some of the scribes and the Pharisees answered, saying, "Teacher, we want to see a sign from you." But he answering said to them, "A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, but no sign shall be given to it except the sign of the Nabi, the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the stomach of the great fish, so shall the Ben of Adam, the son of Adam, be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Men of Nineveh shall stand up in the judgment with this generation and condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and look, a greater than Jonah is here." Verse 42, the sovereigness, the queen of the south, let's call her Makeda. The south is where she came from, but her name was Makeda. And Yeshua wants us to know that she's going to stand up against this generation and she will condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to bear the wisdom of Shelomoh, Solomon, and took a greater than Solomon is here. That's our subject this morning. Yeshua here makes reference to the queen of the south, the queen of Sheba, and she's going to raise up in the last days and condemn the people in the judgment. As I read this, I ask myself, which judgment is this one? We know, according to 1 Peter 4 and verse 17, that judgment starts in the house of Yah. So is that the judgment that she will get up and condemn the people? Or is it the white throne judgment, the judgment for unbeliever? I believe that it's the end time judgment. She will rise up and condemn all the unbelievers. Why? Yeshua made it clear. She had traveled all the way from the south, from Ethiopia, from central Sudan. Because when we talk about biblical Ethiopia, we're talking about land that includes Eritrea and Sudan and all that area. We've got to understand that. She's going to stand up and she's going to condemn the people because she traveled and all she was seeking is wisdom. All she sought was wisdom. So as we look at biblical Cush or Ethiopia, it's important for us to know that the geographical terms Near East, Far East, and Middle East, these are arbitrary designation, Eurocentric designation contrived by British imperialism during the 19th and 20th century. They don't exist biblically. We've got to understand that. They were designed by the cartographers and others in terms of their distance from Europe. So we're not dealing with these Near East and Far East because most likely Israel was part of North Africa. And so you probably won't hear this elsewhere, but go back to the scriptures. The queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them. For she came from the utmost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of sovereign Shelomoh, King Solomon. And so I'm going to take you to the book of Melak Aleph, that's the book of 1 Kings. And we're going to dilate a little on chapter 10, the 10th portion of that book. And it says, and the sovereigness of the Sheba heard of the report of Shelomoh concerning the name of Yahweh. Understand that. She heard of this sovereign. She heard of this king, but what she heard was not in relation to him as an individual, but his connection with Yahweh. Meaning, at the time she came to see him, he was a reflector of the sovereign Yah. That's what she heard. And who told her? According to the Kebra Negras, Tamarin, a merchant who was trading in lumber and other items with Solomon, heard and spent time with Solomon and saw his wisdom, heard the way he spoke and the way he treated the people around him, his humility, his wisdom, his understanding of things. This man was influential. So 1 Kings chapter 10 is really capturing what transpired in that meeting. She came and she saw how he behaved. And the word said she asked him hard questions. A leader must be able to answer questions. You see press conferences today, and the leader said, I'm not taking any questions. She came, she said, I heard your fame, because your fame, your reputation precedes you. It came before you. I want to know if you are the real deal, Solomon. I'm coming to see you. You've got to understand something here. We are dealing with a time when we did not have flights. From Sudan, if that's a central point of travel, all the way to Jerusalem would be over 1,000 miles. In chariots, that would take about 4 to 5 months. She says, I'm going there. I've got to meet this man. I've got to meet him. I heard so much about him and the way he reflects his creator. An elder, a pastor, a bishop should be a reflector of their creator, even if King Solomon was in this particular point. We know what happened in his later day, but we're talking at this particular time. She was impressed with him. Let's read on. And she came to Jerusalem. I'm reading here from the book of 1 Kings, and I'm reading from the Alleluia scriptures, so it might be a little bit different from some of the following translations. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great company, with camels that bore spices, very much gold and precious stones. And she came to Shelomoh, to Solomon, and she spoke with him about all that was in her heart. This was not a poor woman. She was rich. She wasn't looking money. She did not come to beg. She came for wisdom. So when Yeshua spoke in Matthew chapter 12 and says, this woman here was in search of wisdom. And not only that was she in search of wisdom, she wanted to meet wisdom. But there is one greater than Solomon that came and is coming back, and his word still exists in this generation, and this generation has rejected him. One greater than Moses, one greater than Jacob, one greater than Abraham, one greater than the wisest man that ever lived, Solomon. I present him to you today, Yeshua HaMashiach. So the queen of Sheba came from her country, and she met this king. You know what interests me? Because when you read the book of, come with me to the book of Bereshit, that's Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, and we will take the verse 13. It says, and the name of the second river, there are 4 rivers coming out of the Garden of Eden, and it says, This one is the one that surrounds the entire land of Cush. Did you get that? The river coming out of, the second river coming out of the Garden of Eden, it surrounds the entire land of Cush. Some people have postulated the idea that this is the Blue Nile. It's the Blue Nile. But you know what interests me also is the fact that when Solomon was to be anointed king, when he was to be anointed king, David says, get me the priest and get me some more people and take Solomon down to the river Gihon Springs, the Gihon Springs. Now, you perhaps won't hear this elsewhere, and people will present other arguments to deflect from this reality, is that the Gihon Spring, I believe, is a tributary or an outgrowth of the same Gihon River that flowed from the Garden of Eden that surrounds all of Ethiopia, all of Cush. There's a Gihon Springs in Jerusalem. Now, people will say that's a different thing. But you know what I believe? I believe this Gihon Spring is subterranean. It is subterranean in that it runs underground and emerges in Jerusalem, but it is the same spring. I believe it's the same spring. And why do I say that? Even in Florida here, we have the Santa Fe River, which runs underground in some parts and emerges. We have rivers in Georgia. We have river running underground in England, in London underground. But people don't seem to notice these things because they are subterranean. They run underground. And in other places, they emerge. I remember very clearly some years ago in my formative years in St. Mary, Jamaica, there was a river called Dry River running all the way through Enfield, St. Mary, all the way, and empties itself out in Itiboro in the sea. But there was a tank where the people, a reservoir that supplied the district with water. And when they came to test the water that had minerals in it, they told my grandparents that this water here that has the mineral in it, it is subterranean. It is the same dry river that was running, that seeps on the ground. So the point I'm making is that in this you can link Solomon to Ethiopia by way of the Gihon Springs. I just want to make that point so you could see that. Verse 4, come back to 1 Kings chapter 10. And the sovereigness of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Shelomoh, and the house he had built, and the food on his table, and the seating of his servants, and the service of his waiters, and their attire, the clothes they wore, and his cupbearers, and his burnt offerings, which he offered in the house of Yahweh, and there was no spirit in her. She was struck. She was struck. She found it incredulous. That's how it was for this woman. Incredulous. And I want to read you something from the Hebrew Negus. The word here says that, and it came to pass that the merchant Tamarin wished to return to his country, and he went to Solomon and bowed before him, embraced him, and said to him, "Peace be to thy majesty. Send me away and let me depart to my country and to my lady," that's the queen, "for I have tarried long in beholding the glory and thy wisdom." I want to go home now because I want to tell this story. I want to share my experience with the rest of the people and certainly with my queen. And so we read here that, "And the queen said unto her subject, You are my people. Listen to my words, for I desire wisdom, and my heart seeketh to find it, to find understanding. I am smitten with the love of wisdom, for wisdom is far better than treasures of gold and silver, and wisdom is the best of everything that hath been created on the earth. Unto what under the heavens shall we compare wisdom?" And then we read in chapter 23 of the book, I just read from chapter 22, it says, "And she arrived in Jerusalem and brought to the king many precious gifts, which he desired to possess greatly. And he paid her great honor, and he rejoiced, and he gave her an habitation in the royal palace near him." Now understand something here, because when you read the experience in 1 Kings chapter 10, you don't get the impression that she stayed very long. You don't travel for 5 months with a retinue of people, with camels and other things, and just turn back the next day. But the keeper Niga said he gave her an habitation. She stayed with him a while, and ultimately they fell in love. But, I want to get back to my subject, which is one greater than Shelomoh, one greater than Solomon. So the word says that Solomon was a great king, and he was the one who made peace. It was a united kingdom during his time, and he made peace, and he ruled quite well. But he did tax the people a great deal, but his wisdom was such that everywhere you went, people spoke of the king of Israel. They spoke of him. He was humble. He was generous. He treated his people well. The food that they ate, the clothes they wore, when the queen saw it, she wanted that to be a model for her own empire. That's what she wanted. But you know, as I do, that after Solomon died, the kingdom was split in two. You had the northern kingdom, which are the 10 tribes, and then you had the southern kingdom that consists of 2 tribes, that's Benjamin and Judah, and they became the southern tribes. The northern tribes in 722 BC were taken by the Assyrians, and they were scattered all over the place. And then Judah in 586 BC were taken to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar. Temple was destroyed, and so all of the kingdom were in exile. So we want to look now at, and to make this comparison, this juxtaposition between Solomon, the wisest king, and the king that is wiser than the wisest king, one greater than Solomon. So come with me to the book of Ezekiel, and we will take the 37th portion, and we will read from verse 15. And the word says, "The word of Yah came again to me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick." Take what? Take thee one stick. Because the word wants you to know that Israel is indeed one stick. And write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companion. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for the house of Israel, his companion. He says, I know the kingdom is divided, and no house divided against itself can stand. So regardless of all the treaties that are being signed by world leaders to unite the kingdom of Israel, they can't do it. Only the Prince of Peace can do it. Only Yeshua can do that. Because as we discussed this morning in Sabbath school, even though currently we have a peace treaty, bombs are still raining down in Gaza, and people are being killed, while a ceasefire agreement is there without any value to it. We've got to understand that. And so Ezekiel here, the prophet, is being told, this one who is greater than Solomon is going to bring peace to Israel. Join them as one stick. Verse 18, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be mine in my hand. I'm going to make the children of Israel, and I'm going to make the house of Judah one stick in the end time. Interesting. I'm going to make them one stick. But the world doesn't know who Israel is. The world doesn't know who Israel is. The common view is this, that the Balfour Agreement that took place in 1948, where the British promised a group of people and took many of them from Eastern Europe, and brought them to the land of Israel, and the whole world says these are the Jews. That's the common view. And the world believes that. But we believe in Isaiah 8 and verse 20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to the word, then there is no light in them. So come with me to the book of Bereshit, that's Genesis, and we will dilate chapter 10, Genesis chapter 10, and we must ask Moses' opinion on this. The word says that Moses is a man who took dictation from Yahweh, and Yahweh took him up to the Mount Sinai. Let's read. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. Moses is writing here. The sons of Japheth, or Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshech and Tyras, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz and Rephath and Togarmath, and the sons of Javan, Elihath and Tarshish, Kittim and Dodanim. By these, verse 5, by these were the hives of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families in their nations. Moshe, a man who was once considered to be an Egyptian, meaning that he had the same Mennonite connection, content, substance in him as the people in Egypt, because David says Egypt is the land of Ham. King David says that. So obviously for him to be hiding in Egypt with a people that were black, he would have to be of the same complexion. That's kind of obvious. That's one of the misconceptions that lingers even now. So Moses here says, these from the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, the Ashkenazi people, Moses says, they are Gentiles. And we know historically, we know currently, that the Ashkenazi people, they make up 90+% of the people currently claiming Jewry that are in Israel. I just want to show you that as we look through the word, because our intent this morning, like our ancestor, Queen Makeda, is to go after truth. Not what the churches teach, or what the assemblies teach, or the pastors teach, but what the word of Yah says. Thus saith Yah. We will travel, and we're doing that. So as we perambulate through the word of Yah, we're traveling to find the truth, because our subject is one greater than. And he says, I'm going to round up my people, and I'm going to bring them back together to be one stick, to make the nation of Israel the way it was when King Solomon ruled. That's what he's doing. So if you come with me to Stephanus, or the book of Zephaniah, and the word there in chapter 3, that's Zephaniah chapter 3, and if we take verse 10, what does it say? He wants us to know that Yeshua's people is not really the people that people have long since led us to believe. He says, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. From where? From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my dispersed people, verse 10 of chapter 3. He says, they are going to bring me an offering at the end time. We all know what dispersed means, scattered. My people who are dispersed from beyond the river, not Europe, they will bring me an offering. That's what the word of Yah says. So it is important that we as a people, we know who we are. And because we don't know who we are, many people have been led astray, misconceived. And so we gravitate towards the Eurocentric religion, the religion we call Christianity, that is tainted by Constantine, because when Constantine came into the church during the time of Pergamos, Yeshua himself said that Satan's seat is there. He said that. And in chapter 2 and verse 9 of Revelation, he says that there are some who claim to be Jews, but they are of the synagogue of Satan. He said the same thing again in chapter 3 and verse 9. So we've got to be very, very careful that we don't get entangled in the creeds of churches who are misleading the people. It is very, very important, because in Amos, if we could go to Amos also, chapter 9 and verse 7, the word says that Yah had, let's read it. It says, "Are ye not the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, said Yahweh? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Captor, and the Syrians from Ker? Are you not the same as the children of the Ethiopian unto me, O Israel?" Israel, you and the Ethiopian are the same people. That's what the word says. That's what he said. And so I wonder, when people read these things, what it is that they see. Come with me to the book of Hosea. Hosea, and the word says, "And the word of Yah came unto Hosea the son of Beeri," that's chapter 1, "in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, and Ahaz, and Hezekiah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam the son of Joash, king of Israel." And he says, in the beginning of the word of Yahweh by Hosea, "And Yahweh said to Hosea, Go take thee unto yourself a wife of whoredom." Take an harlot, marry a prostitute. You are a priest, I knew that. And clearly Hosea would have read the memoirs of Samson. Therefore, he would have known that a priest ought not to take a wife who is an harlot, who is promiscuous. He knows that. But Yahweh is speaking. Go and take a woman of whoredom. Take a woman of the night and make her your wife. Because why? Yah wants to dramatize the experience that he has with Israel, to show Israel and to show the world that Israel, his own people, are behaving like prostitutes. That's what he wants to do. Go and take a woman of whoredom. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, because all this is in context with our subject, one greater than Solomon. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived, and she bore him a son. And Yahweh said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, For yet a little while I will avenge the blood of Jezreel. It's telling you that when Israel went into the land, things were going okay. Jezreel. Yah has blessed Israel. They're doing all right. But then it says, and she conceived again and bare a daughter. And Elohim said, call his name Lo-Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy in the house of Israel. So I usually, when I present this, liken it to a marriage situation during the courting period and the initial part of the marriage. Everything is going okay until maybe a few months, a few years, and things no longer are as they ought to be, and mercy has left the home. The wife is no longer speaking to the husband in the way that she previously did. Neither is he bringing home the money that he used to bring home to look after his family. Something has happened. Lo-Ruhamah means mercy has left the home. But all this is playing into the dramatization of the relationship that Yah has with Israel. And she conceived again. So she has a third child. But by the time she has this child, she has left the family home. She goes back out into those red light area of Jerusalem, and she finds the men she used to be with, and she has another child, and the child name is Lohemi, meaning not mine. Yah is saying, Israel, you're no longer mine. The things you're doing, the behavior you are exhibiting in the world, they're not mine. You as a people, you're mine, but your behavior, they send a stench to my nostril. Lohemi. Lohemi. Verse 9, then said Yahweh, call his name Lohemi, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your Elohim. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass, shall what? It come to pass that in the place where it has been said unto you, you are not my people, there shall it be unto them, you are the sons of the living God. Did you hear that? He says, in the end time, you people who have been mutilated and humiliated and called all kind of names, and nobody knows that you're my people. He says, in the end time, you, Israel, you, Ephraim, you, Manasseh, you, the 10 tribes, you, the people with dark skin, you will be called the children of Israel. That's what the word says. Now you're Lohemi, not mine. Nobody knows you. You're scattered. And because other people have been brought from Eastern Europe and has displaced you, nobody sees you as mine. You are Lo-Ami, but I'm going to restore you. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. You will be mine again. That's what the word says. So come with me now to Esdras. Remember, this book of Esdras is a book that was taken out of the so-called canon. But we have it in our Bible. Yah has preserved it through the Ethiopian Bible, which has between 81 and 88 books. The King James only has 66. And many have led themselves to believe that it's only 66 books. No. Everything that Yah spoke is Yah's word. And so come with me to the book of Esdras, and if you don't have that in your Bible, then just hear what the word says. And we will start from verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of our land in the time of Hosea the sovereign. Esdras chapter 13, second Esdras, 40. Let's start again. These are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their homeland in the time of Hosea the sovereign from Manasseh the sovereign of Ashur. This is 722 BC. They were led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the Gentiles. They would leave. Assyria took them away. They were in captivity. That's our people. Understand that. Remember, Ephraim is the son of Joseph. Joseph was married to an Egyptian woman. And when Jacob was blessing his sons, his grandsons, in Genesis chapter 48, reading from verse 16, he says, put my name, the name Israel, on Ephraim and Manasseh. Put my name. So only these two sons got the blessing, that special blessing. People will say, but all the children are the sons of Jacob. True. But not all of them got the blessings of the firstborn. Ephraim was the firstborn. You say, Ephraim? Yes, because Reuben lost it. Reuben was the biological firstborn, but Ephraim got the blessing of the firstborn. And so the firstborn gift is the land Israel. So you notice when the children of Israel were shipped out, the land was now called the land of Judah, because only Judah was left in. And we will come to that. Let's read on. But he took the counsel among themselves, and they would leave the multitude of the Gentiles and go forth into further country, where never mankind dwelt. So after they were taken by the Assyrians and placed among the Gentiles, Esdras, which is the same Ezra in the King James, is reporting to us that they left. That they might therefore keep their statute, because in captivity they were not able to worship Yah as they should. And they left, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river. Most High then showed sign for them, and he held the flood, and they passed over. And they came, in the English here, a land called Azaret. They came to a place called Azaret. Christopher Columbus, who left Spain, he said this land, Azaret, was America. That's why he came to America. Christopher Columbus believed that Azaret, where the Jews, the 10 tribes, left and came, they came to America. So the majority of the people who initially came to America in the early days, Christopher Columbus and others, and seem here to be validated by the scriptures, that they were Jews. Not the ones that Europe and other people have told us are the Jews. And so the point here is that Yah says, I'm going to round them up. I'm going to round them up. And I'm going to make them one with Judah. Israel cannot be complete until Israel, the children of Israel, comes back into the land. Can't be. It's one stick. And so Yah says, I'm going to round them up. And so when we read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68, we hear this, and Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spoke unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold your enemies as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Yes, said, if you don't obey me, I'm going to bring you back to Egypt on ships as slaves. I'm going to bring you to Azareth. I'm going to bring you to America. The term Israel, the term Egypt here is bondage. That's what it means. So my question is, if Christopher Columbus designate this land Azareth as America, and the Bible seems to be corroborating that, it was the children of Israel, the black Jews, that were in slavery again a second time for 400 years. Understand that? He said, I'm going to bring you back into bondage. So it didn't surprise me one bit in 2024, in August, when the eclipse, well, you know we had two eclipses, one in April 2017, and 7 years subsequent to that, we had in August 24 another eclipse, and it left an X in the sky over a place in Illinois called Little Egypt. And perhaps you say, what's the significance of that? But I will answer, because X in scriptures is the Paleo-Hebrew Tav. And Tav is the 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's a sign, it's a seal. So Yah is letting us know, it seems, that, I'm going to seal my people in, because I'm about to deliver them and to bring Israel back and link them with Judah and make one stick. That's what it seems to me that Yah is doing. Zechariah, come with me to Zechariah, chapter 13, and let's take verse 7 and verse 8. Because a lot of what's happening in Gaza and elsewhere, it seemed to me that it will continue unabated until the prophetic fulfillment is reached. The word says, awake, O sword, against my shepherd. Against what? My shepherd. And against the man that is my fellow, saith Yah a host, smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn mine hand upon the little ones, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Yahweh, two parts. Hear me. In all the land of Israel, two parts therein shall be cut off and die. But the third shall be left therein. That's the prophecy. So a lot of the killings that you see taking place, it has a prophetic framework. You can't just understand what's happening in Israel and the rest of the world by way of politics. Prophecy is simply playing out in politics. That's what we need to understand. We really need to understand. Let me take you to the book of Baruch. Baruch chapter 2. Baruch, as you perhaps know, is the scribe that wrote for Jeremiah, the prophet. When Jeremiah was speaking, Baruch would write. But again, they have taken this book out of the canon. Because you know these people, they determine what you should read, what you should eat, and so on and so forth. Who should be your leader? The only leader they accept is the one that they have chosen for you. We've chosen Yeshua for ourselves. So come with me to Baruch, chapter 2, and we read from verse 30. For I know that the people will not hear me. Sounds like today. You could preach until you're blue. And the people, they will turn on their TV to watch a ball game. They will go to play golf. They will prefer to go to the zoo than to hear the word of Yah. He said, they will not hear me, for they are a people of stiff neck, but they shall turn their heart in the land of their captivity. They will what? While they are in the land of their captivity, while they are in America and Britain and Brazil and wherever the slaves were placed, the Caribbean, they shall know that I am Yah, their Elohim. I will give them a new heart, says Yah. And they shall understand, and I will give them ears, and they shall hear. While they are in the land of their captivity, I will give them a new heart, and they will understand. And they shall turn away themselves from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their father. They shall remember Abraham, they shall remember Yishtak, and they shall remember Jacob, that sin, the fathers who sinned against me, all of them, all have sinned and have come short. And I will bring them back again into the land which I promised with an oath to their fathers, Abraham, Ishak, and Jacob. And they shall be masters thereof, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make with them another covenant. I will what? I will make with them another covenant that shall be everlasting, to be their Yahweh, and they shall be my people, and I will no more remove my people, the children of Israel, out of the land that I gave them. Wow. I will give them new heart. That's why in America and elsewhere you see groups realizing who they are. Hebrew Israelites, Israelite, Hebrew, Seventh-day Hebrew. People are calling themselves all different kinds of names. Baruch said this would happen. It would happen because they are realizing that they are the descendants of the ancestors who were taken in 722, and now they're finding out that they are Jews. They are Israel. That's what he says. So when Yah says, you see, that Makeda, that woman of the South, she's going to rise up and condemn this generation. Why? Because she traveled over 1,000 miles in chariots, and you have diesel engine and petrol engine cars, gas engine car, and you won't even drive to a church to hear the truth. You won't even keep the Sabbath holy. She's going to condemn you. Because when she went to Jerusalem and she heard what Solomon said, she took it back to her homeland and she implemented that, and you are her descendant and you are behaving like you're a Gentile. Simply because you are taking on Constantine teaching, and you are now, oh, I'm an Episcopalian. Really? Oh, I'm a Church of England. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. You may well be, but you're not a witness of Jehovah, are you? Because if you're a witness of Jehovah, you must stick to the word. Thus said Yahweh. And so this man here who is going to bring Israel back, bring the people back, the people who were dispersed. He's greater than Solomon, because Solomon's kingdom was divided, as I indicated earlier on, divided. But this man here is letting us know that he is greater than Solomon. Did they not ask him? You know, he said, I have come to seek that which was lost, that which was scattered, and I am going to round them back up. Let's look again. We looked at it earlier on, the book of Stephanus and chapter 1, Zephaniah. The word of Yahweh which came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushi. The son of who? Cushi. This prophet here, this end-time prophet, Stephanus, when we Anglified him, or we anglicized him, we call him Zephaniah. He says, my daddy is Cushi. Let me say that another way. He's saying, I am a descendant of Ethiopia. I am a descendant of Sudan. Forget your Middle East and your Far East and your Near East. I'm from Africa. I'm from Al-Kibulan. He wants you to know that. The son of Gedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Ezekiah. Ezekiah was a great king in Judah from the house of David. This black melanated prophet wants you to know that he is from the house of David. He is a Jew. He wants you to know that. Josiah was his relative. Good King Josiah was his relative. It's here in the word. Why don't we preach it? I think that the preachers who are not preaching the word as they should preach, it's not a matter of avoidance. In some places, it's ignorance. Fear also. If I ever preach this, what will the people say? My question is, if you don't preach it, what will Yah say? He says that. And so we've got to understand what's happening here. Come with me to Jeremiah chapter 31. Hear, O Israel, hear the word of Yah. I'm calling Israel to hear the word of Yah. O ye nations, and declare it in the isles far off. Tell it the people in the Caribbean. And say, he that scattered Israel will gather him, and keep him as a shepherd that is flock. For Yahweh hath redeemed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion, and shall flow together to the goodness of Yahweh, for wheat and for wine and for oil and for the young of the flock of the herd, and their soul shall be as watered garden, and they shall be okay. They will be fine. I'm going to regather them, even from the highlands. Do you get that? Yah keeps his word. And so let's bring this to its close. Acts chapter 8. Let's take verse 26. And the messenger of Yahweh spoke unto Philippus, saying, arise and go towards the south. Go where? Towards the south. Did you get that? Go to the south. Abraham went to the south, did he not? And Abraham journeyed going on still towards the south, according to Genesis 22. Genesis 12, I should say, in verse 9. Abraham went to the south. Go down to the south and go towards the south along the way which goes down to from Jerusalem to Gaza. That's the Hebrew for Gaza. Go down to Gaza. Leave Jerusalem and go south. Go south. Go down to Gaza. There is an Ethiopian there. There's a black man there in his chariot. He's a representative of Queen Candace. He's just coming from worship from Jerusalem, and he's seen there reading the book of Isaiah, but he doesn't get it. He's coming from the temple. This is the 1st century, remember that. But perhaps they're teaching Talmudic Judaism there, not Torah in its full context. He's reading the book of Isaiah. Hold on. This is 1st century. The Normandy invasion in Britain was 1066. We're dealing with 1st century. They tell us that the gospel was brought to Africa by Europe. The scholars, the historians, the clergymen. The word of Yah says, in the 1st century, an Ethiopian man was reading the book of Isaiah when it was not popular for people to have their own scrolls. Who you believe? That the gospel was in Africa long before it reached Europe. That's what it says. So the Ruach directed Philip, go and explain to him. Go and explain. And he explained it to him. Who is this talking about? He was reading Isaiah 53. Who is this? Who is the lamb that was slaughtered? Who is this lamb? Philip said, that's the one greater than Solomon. That's the Messiah. That's Mashiach. That's Amashiach. And so when the man heard truth, just like his ancestor, the Queen of Sheba, heard truth, the word said he rejoiced. He rejoiced. And asked, so Philippos, did you not see the water down there? What hinders you from baptizing me? Remember, he's coming from Jerusalem in worship. I want to make this point also. The distance in time between this incident, this man's experience, and Acts chapter 10, where Cornelius, the first Gentile, received the gospel, is between 3 and 6 years. That's the first Gentile. Which tells you quite clearly that this Ethiopian eunuch here was not a Gentile, he was Hebrew. You've got to understand that. They will tell you otherwise. The preachers who are biased, and they don't want you to know who you are because they have stolen your identity. But the word says in Timothy, study to show yourself approved unto whom? Unto Yahweh. A workman needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's what we're doing. And so we've got to understand that we have a duty to tell the people who they are. So finally, we're going through this process because there is a second Exodus on the way, more spiritual than it is physical, but the people don't know it. It's hidden right in front of their eye. Come with me as we bring this to its ultimate end. Jeremiah chapter 16. Let's start at verse 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. You won't remember that Exodus, because the Exodus that is coming is going to be greater than that Exodus. But Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from the lands whither ye had driven them, and I will bring them again in their land that I gave unto their fathers. Behold, I will send for many fishers, said Yahweh, and they shall fish them. And after I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. That's what he says. I will send them. But I would be remiss if I didn't read Isaiah 11. So come with me. And I will take verse 11. That's 11:11. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again a second time. He shall what? He shall set his hand a second time to these people to recover the remnant. The what? The remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush, there we are again, and from Elam and from Shinar, that's Babylon, and from Amath and from the islands of the sea. One is almost convinced this is the Caribbean. But notice the list here placed by the prophet Isaiah, who was taken through the seven heavens, the ascension of Isaiah. And he saw this, and he brings it to our attention. But I did not see any list in there or any places in Europe. So how did you get Jews over in Europe to bring them into the land of Israel and say they're Jews, where the Bible teaches quite differently? We need to humble ourselves and speak even as Yah has spoken. May that be the case. And may we relinquish some of the lies, or all of the lies that they have taught us, and hold fast to the word of Yah. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen. Hallelujah.